Hello, what's up guys? Welcome to today's video. We're going to be taking a look at something very exciting coming to Bricks Builder, and that is Advanced Themer for Bricks. Advanced Themer is a new plugin for Bricks Builder that comes with a lot of productivity tools, a lot of productivity hacks designed to improve your workflow and to make your development process faster. A couple of days back, this plugin was released in the Bricks community, and today I want to take a look at it and see what it can do. What is Advanced Themer capable of? Let's take a look. First thing I'm going to do is to go to the backend. Once you install Advanced Themer, you're going to find it under Bricks at the backend of your WordPress. So you're going to have three settings. The last one is for the license, which you'll have to include your license. The first one is the theme settings. So right now I'm under theme settings. So what we have here, so I'm going to take a look at all these features one after the other, and let's put it to the test. Okay, this video is going to be a little bit comprehensive, so it might, so I just want you to buckle up, stay tuned, and let's look at it together. All right, so the first thing I'm seeing here is typography variables. When I saw this, the first thing that came to my mind was how flexible this is. So you have the ability to add custom typography variables to your website. Let's say you want to have your H1, for instance. Now it already comes with predefined variables here, and it says that these values are set according to the material UI font size scale. So you are free to change it. So what this basically does is that you give it a variable name, you can change this, and then you give it a minimum value. The minimum value will be your font size on your mobile device, and the maximum value will be your font size on your desktop device. Now, even though they're using pixels here, they automatically change to rem on the front end. So this uses clamp and it's going to calculate it to rem. So we have this variable H1, H2, and then there are so many other font variables here that you can use, and you have the ability to remove all of them and define your own variables. I mean, this is particularly useful for those that want to build their boilerplate on their own. They want to create their CSS variables on their own. This is very flexible, so it doesn't tie you into a system of predefined variables that you don't have control over, which in a way is a plus. And for professionals who know what they're doing, this will be very useful. And then you have your spacing variables. Now what I like about it is the previews. You can quickly see how it is going to look, so you don't have to think about how is it going to look. You don't have to go to the front end to have an idea of the size. So even the spacing, you can see if I change this to, like, say 20, you can see what it's going to look like. So you have an idea of what your spacings are going to look like. The preview really is a very fantastic feature that I like a lot. Then you go to your border radius, the same things. Okay, let's just move ahead to the next one, custom variables. Now this gives you the option to create variables, any kind of custom variables. And then the beautiful thing about it is that you can categorize them. For example, I'm going to add a category. I'm just going to say max widths, and then that is my category. I'm going to add a variable. Then I want it to be static variable, and then I will just call that max. I'm just going to say width 480 pixels. Okay, just say 480. I'm just going to give it a value of 480 pixel. And then I'm going to add another static variables, and then I'm just going to call that width 720, and then I'm going to make this 720 pixel. Now what I want to do is to quickly go into Bricks, and check if this works. So I'm going to go to Bricks, and I'm going to refresh this, and I will drop in I'm just going to drop in a div. Okay, so I already have something here. It doesn't have to be a div. So what I want to do is to drop in that variable in the width, max width section. So we have a max width here. See, if I put 480, you see that is what it is here. But if I put that variable var width -480, you see it gives me that 480 pixels because I've already declared it. These are in categories, like I said, so I can create another category, and I can just say headings, and then I can create my variable like fluid, and I can just say heading or H1, and then that is the variable name. I just want to call it H1. I'm going to say maybe this is going to be 32 pixels on the smaller device, and it's going to be 80 pixels on the bigger device. And then I save that settings, and then if I go to the front end, I can always refresh this, and then put my variable there. You can see my h1. Instead of writing 80, I'm just going to write var dash h1, and then I have that variable. I guess that is it. And let's see if we get it right. Then at the front end, I'm going to right click this and then check the size of that and see if we have that size. So you see, if I turn this off, you can see that it changes. And my variable here, h1, you see it uses clamp, and we have those, and these are they are accessible because they use rem. So it's if you change the browser settings, your browser font size is going to adapt, it's going to respond to it. So it's actually very accessible. So that's basically the gist of this. And then you go to grids. I actually set up the second one. So you have the grid classes. Now these grid classes are really interesting. I mean, I could think of a couple of ways to use it. Now, for instance, you have grade 3 here. So what this does is that you give it a class, and then you give it the gap unit, okay, the gap value, and then you give it the maximum number of columns that you want, and then the minimum column width. So this is kind of like auto responsive grids, so they're automatically responsive, so you don't need to set any breakpoint for it. So and what I like about this is that now these are being defined as utility classes, but I could think of an idea where I could have a card like this, then I have the layout property applied to it. Now this is flex by default. What I did there was flex, but I don't want it to be flex, but I just want to give this a class and just call it hero images, okay, dash images, and then I'm going to save it. But then I want to apply a grid to that class. I'm just thinking of another way I could use this. So I just go there and give it a class of hero dash images, and then I'm going to give it a grid, gap 2 rem, and I want it to be 4 columns and 250. I mean, you really need to know what you're doing here. Let's say I put 280, okay, and then I save it. Then I want it to be 4 columns. Now let's go back there. I just want to use this opportunity to show you something. And so we go there, and then you find out that we have 3 columns. You see, automatically it applies that grid settings, and it automatically locks that. I mean, you can unlock it if you want, but it automatically locks that class. But we don't want it to be used as a utility class. I just want it to be used as a regular class. But instead of using this part to mess around, especially for those who don't know how grid works, you just add that class there, and then you can still keep on doing whatever you want to do. Okay. Now even though I said 4 columns here, but my maximum width, my minimum width is not aligned for 4 columns, because 4 columns will require each of these to be smaller, So if I take it down to, like, say 200 and maybe 40 or 250, and then you would see that it's now going to be small enough to accommodate 4 columns. So you can see now that we have 4 columns. But then let's see, when we go down to the smaller breakpoint, you can see that it's automatically responsive. So you don't have any issues with responsiveness there. So it's really cool. So if I gave this to 220 minimum width, it's just going to be a bit smaller like that. So we're going to have, for the smaller breakpoint, you see we have 3 here, then we can now have we have 3 here also, then we have 1 here. So it depends on how small you want it to be at the lower breakpoints. The smaller you want it to be, the lower the number here. Okay, now that is basically that. And then the class importer, what this does is that you add a style sheet, you add you just give it a label. This version is optional. Now you add a style sheet. What this is going to do is that it's going to enqueue your style sheet on your Bricks site, and then it's going to import all the classes that are used within that style sheet, and going to make them available here, right here, where you want to choose classes. So it's going to parse those classes into the Bricks builder, and this is for people that use external style sheet. This is a really useful feature. I'm just going to remove that. And then the resource, for now, I couldn't really see the use for this, but from what I gathered, it's just, you just add images, add to gallery, or I don't know if it's limited to only images. I think no, it's you could add other files. But then what this does is that when you go to the Bricks site, if you enable resources, it just enables you to browse through what you have added here. And one thing I could do with it, which I'm going to show you later, is that I was able to copy the image URL. That's the basically the only thing I was able to do, with this feature in the Bricks Builder. Once we enable the resource button, we will see it now. The next thing we're going to go into now, we're getting to the interesting part here, is the builder tweaks. Now, before we go to the builder tweaks, I think this should have been the first setting. So I don't know, this is kind of like a feedback now, because I mean, you want to show this first as the first settings. You want the first thing I want to do is to set my minimum viewport width and my maximum viewport width, my base font size, and then before doing any other thing. And then another useful feature here is that you can add a prefix to your global variables. Now, this is particularly useful to avoid potential conflict with other variables. Let's say you're using ACSS and then you don't remember. I mean, you're just excited about the names and you just go text, text XL, something like that, or L, which is your H1, and then ACSS uses text XL or L also. Now what happens is that this is going to have a conflict, but if you don't want it to have a conflict, what you're going to do is just give you a variable. So for me, I could add my own variable like designing with Cracker DWC, and then I save it, and then you realize that when I use that variable, it's going to add that. Now it might not show here, but if I go to the front end and then use text L, okay, var text -L. Okay, no, I have to use my prefix was DWC. Okay, so I have to use the prefix, okay, because I said we needed a prefix. Now I've used that prefix, so you see that it respects that prefix. So if I use just text L, it's gonna retain the original. If we had maybe like ACSS installed here, it's gonna show the one for ACSS, but then we added our own prefix. What this is good for is that you don't have to be typing out that that all the time. You don't have to type it out. You could just use what you're familiar with, okay, the names, and then you could add your own prefix. Now, so let's go to the builder tweaks, which we're getting really close to the interesting stuff here. I mean, the exciting stuff. I mean, the other ones were exciting, but visually, what we want to do is, and right now I want to toggle all of this. I'm going to toggle all except the global AI panel. The reason I'm not going to toggle the AI panel and I'm not going to look at it today is because I think it requires premium, membership, premium subscription to OpenAI. I tried to get a free API key, but I didn't get any result from it. So let's turn that off for now. Now, so the contrast checker, the resource, the grid guide, dark mode. This dark mode will work once you've set up. Let's just go ahead. The X mode, and the advanced CSS. So I'm going to save that. Let's take a look at what that does. So we're going to save all that. These are builder tweaks, so we're going to see it in the builder. So I'm just going to save what I have here, and then I'm going to refresh this page. And then if you notice, we have additional buttons up here. So let's start from here. So the grid guide shows you a 12-column grid, okay, that guides you. It enables. I think it's cool. It helps you to know if your design is pixel perfect. If you're designing according to the grid rules. So this is a 12-column grid, and you can see that my 4 columns are well aligned to it. That is what it does. So I'm going to turn this off and go to the next one. Now this is the X mode. The X mode gives you like an X-ray mode, which is very good with debugging, especially enables you to see all the bounding boxes of your HTML elements. And the next thing is the contrast checker. Very nice tool. Now, if I click the contrast checker, nothing is going to really show unless you have a problem with contrast. So let's say I come here and then I want to, there's a heading, right? And then I want to change the color of this text to something like this. Okay. Now I'm happy with it, but the contrast checker is going to highlight it and say, look, this doesn't pass the contrast test. Okay, so you have to change it to something better. So if I take that and then click it again, you can see nothing. It highlights nothing. Then the dark mode is just switches to your website to a dark mode. Now this, you would have already set up your colors. Now we haven't entered the colors yet. We're going to do that. Perhaps I should have entered the color before coming to this builder tweak, but then just this are the builder tweak. We're going to show you the color. So you have to set up your color palette, and this dark mode can take advantage of that. And it's you also have the ability to do this on the front end, which we're going to look at. Then the advanced CSS is really important, very useful tool here. So what it does is you have different tabs here. So you have CSS variable, you have your page CSS, you can drop in your page CSS, you have global CSS. So this but I think the downside of it is that you still will need to copy your code out of this, and you also have your theme child CSS. It gives me the impression that you really can't do much here. I can't type here. It just shows them to you. You can only see it, yeah. And this one you can write something to it, but you can't save it. It said, but they wouldn't be saved inside your database and will be lost after a page refresh. So I'm not quite sure I see the need, but then this will be saved in your page if you put a page CSS, and then this enables you to just copy the variables. It just shows you the variables to copy just in case you forgot. Okay, I'm gonna close that, and then under resources here, you can see those images that are added in the resource, and you can just copy the URL. For now, that's what I could do with it. Now, so let's take a look at something else. Of course, for the grid columns, those grid this you could always change the settings from here, the grid gap and all. Then you have a lot of other stuff: find and replace, reorder classes, global classes alphabetically, enable color variable picker. Now this is a very useful one. I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to turn on autocomplete for variables. I'm going to turn on plain classes. I'm going to turn on copy ID. This one is enable highlight classes when selected. So if you select a class, it's going to highlight the element that has that class. No need to turn that on, but you get the gist of what it does. Enable counts. So we're going to just let's see, enable hover, enable class preview and hover. So all these are very useful tools, but I'm just going to enable a few of them, and then I'm going to enable this tab shortcut, okay, and then pseudo element shortcut. And basically that's it. Enable go to parent shortcut. Well, let me just turn that on, and then let's just save it, and then so far, and then I'm going to look at it and see what we have. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this. So when I select an element, you immediately see that we have a whole array of new icons here. Now the first 4 or the first 5 deals with the pseudo classes. Now normally in Bricks, if you want to add a pseudo state like the hover, okay, you need to do like 3 clicks, like 1, okay, now 2, and then 3. So that is for the hover state. Okay, now let me go out of that. Okay, now 1, 2, 3. Anytime I want to go to the hover state, 1, 2, 3. But here now you could always just jump to the hover state directly. You can jump to the before, you could jump to the after, you could jump to the active, you could jump to the focus. And then it's talking about extend classes and style. I'm not quite sure what that means. Anyway, I don't know what this is. I just couldn't figure out what that is, so we're going to ignore that for now. And then of course this is to select the parent container. So that's basically all for that. But then the next one is this. Okay, we have these shortcuts here. So in Bricks, if you want to style something, you have to come to style, come here, you finish this, you want to close, go to typography, you have to scroll down, or remember to close this. But now you can just do everything. So you have you finish styling here, you want to jump to typography, you could just move to typography. You finish, you want to go to border, you could jump to border, so it has this shortcut, sort of like what you have in RECODA for Oxygen. So this is basically about the same function. It gives you a shortcut to these style panels. Okay, so that is basically it. And then we have something else here. So the variable picker. Now we already have variables. Okay, let's say we have maybe we want to apply some variables to this. Maybe we have a h1 variable. Okay, so I'm gonna go to style, I'm gonna go to this. We already have this, okay, but then I want to pick it. Okay, now I don't want to type, I just want to pick it one way. Typography, blah blah blah, and I see text L and I pick text L. Now you see that it automatically adds that prefix that we added earlier, and then I have that. Another way of doing it is I can come here, variable suggestion, we already enabled that, and I type DWC, and then it shows me it's basically all the variables. So I wouldn't need to do that. I would just want to do h1, and then it shows me the one that that I want. So you could if I write h2, it shows me variables. So if I write only h, it shows me all the one that has h. So it suggests variables. So it's very easy. So instead of coming to type verb dash dash dash, I can just say L, and it shows me everything that has to do with L. But if I say text, it shows me, you know, text. I can choose the one I want. So that is extremely useful. So we have different ways of adding variables. You can pick it from here, or you could just use the CSS to filter it. You know, very many ways of, you know, finding what you want. Now the next thing we want to move on to is the colors. Let's just move on to the colors. So I'm just going to quickly come to the colors here, and then what you do is that you can add your color palette. So when you click add color palette, what you're going to see is this. So you're going to see that, and you just have the ability to add your colors. Now I'm going to just remove this for now. Okay, I'm going to remove all of this and then re-add it. Now, so what I do is add a new color. I'm going to call this primary, and then I'm going to choose a color. Okay, that, and then I'm going to add another color. Now you can see that it generates shades, and that is because by default this is not enabled. So I'm going to update this. Okay, so it's not enabled. I'm not quite sure if dark mode is enabled by default, but then of course this is what you're going to get. But when you go ahead to enable shades and update, you're going to have all these shades, and then I'm going to add my secondary color. Okay, let's start type, and then my secondary color is going to be that. Okay, I have that as my secondary color, and then I'm going to add my shade. Okay, and that is going to be my black. All right, so I have my colors, and then I'm saving it. Now when you use let me add one more. I'm just going to add white, and white shouldn't have shade. I wonder what is going to happen, but of course it has. But then I'm going to update this. Now you have this enabled dark mode, which is very important. Now what this does is that it gives you the ability to automatically add dark mode to your site, you know, based on the colors that you've added here. Let me just kill two birds with one stone. I'm going to come here to theme settings. I'm going to go under settings. I'm going to go all the way down to elements. Yeah, so now you don't have these toggles, so I'm going to toggle all this. Now you have the toggle dark mode button and the dark mode button. Now you have color swatches. I'm going to turn this off because these are basically tools for you to use to create your color guides, which I'm not going to go into that now. But then I'm going to turn on these ones, and then I'm going to save it. Then we're going to go in and refresh this builder. Let me save this first. Then I'm going to refresh the builder. Now what I want to do is to turn on add a dark mode to my website right now. So what I want to do is go to the background, see the color. We see all the colors are available here. So you want to make sure that you're using the colors from the themer, you know, from advanced themer. So we have this color here. So I want to use this one, not this one. Okay, for here, my typography color, I want it to be that, you know, so I want it to be shade. Okay, so I have my shade here, and then for this text global, now you want to set a global text color. Basically you want to go to your theme typography and set all body font color to your, you know, maybe that, you know, I don't know. So it just, you know, you see it's changing, so I just set it to that. So and then all your headings, probably you want to give it all of them a global color. All right, so I'm doing that. Now your buttons, everything, so every color that you choose from the, you know, colors that you put on the themer. Okay, so for these want to override that with the white. Okay, and these, the background, see I'm already using the shortcut. I want to change that to that. Okay, so basically all the colors that you have on your site, you know, so let's just save that. Now if I go to the front end, you see I have my colors set. Now if I go to element, add element, and then I come all the way down here, I'm going to see two buttons. Now these two buttons, they do the same thing, just different styles. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to drop them just at the section here. So let's just go there again, and then I'm going to drop these and these. I want to drop two of them, just move it up on top here. So I'm just going to make this move them there. So I'm going to save it, go to the front end, and then I can just click here and toggle dark mode. Okay, so that is not working for some reason, and what I found out was that if you use the shades, you know, the dark mode doesn't seem to affect it, and I think that is a bug. This is the first release. So what I did was I just take it to, you know, this, or yep, or then I could just remove that altogether and then just change that in the global styles. Okay, so all the body fonts I want to use maybe something like that, and then all the heading fonts I want to use that primary color that is dark. Okay, now the shades do not seem to respond to the dark mode. So if I go ahead, you can see that the dark mode works very well, but of course you need just one icon. So I just wanted to show you how the two, how each of them behave. So I have just one icon here, so you can see that I can toggle my dark mode and everything will just work fine. So with one click you could add a dark mode to your website. So I think the fact that the black, the shade that I added is not responding to dark mode could be a bug, or perhaps maybe, I don't know, but I guess the Maxine, the author of the plugin, should be watching this, and I hope he's going to do something about that or give us a feedback. Anyway, so that's basically it on the color. So you have these different shades of colors, which is something you could play around with. Now, if you go to your theme settings, and then you could also enable what is called Playground. So you can enable Frontend Playground, okay? And when you go to the front end, you can toggle that playground. So if I come here, I'm supposed to see it here, but the reason I'm not seeing it here is because I have some strings here. So this is like a preview, but to see the playground, make sure you are not on preview, you're on exact URL of that page. And then now that I'm at that URL, you see I can see enable front end playground. Now what this does is that it gives you an icon here that can open up, and then you are able to see, your stuff. All right, so so I can see my primary color here. Sorry that. So I can see my primary color. Now, if I come here and then start adjusting, you can see it gives you an idea of, you could just make adjustment right there on the fly. But this doesn't save it. It's the playground. It's trying to make you see what it is like, So if you make all these adjustments and you're satisfied with the settings, you can always export the JSON. You can just copy the JSON, export this to JSON or export to CSS. You could copy, I could copy this, and then I could go to the color settings, and then probably my color settings, I could just paste that JSON here and update it, and it's going to update the colors automatically with what settings you had adjusted here. So that is how you use that. But I don't want that. I'm just going to reset it to the way it was. You could also play with the typography. Maybe you can't really visualize what it is like, to have that. I think I may have blocked the button here. Okay, let me just quickly take that out from there. Okay, so yeah, so this is the button I was talking about. You see that button. Yeah, I may have blocked it earlier. All right, so then now you may not be able to visualize maybe how it looks on the actual site, and you want to be able to play with it. You see, you want to be able to play with how it looks, and then you say, okay, I want it to be something like that, perhaps 74, and I mean, you could copy the value. It doesn't matter. You could just use that value and then replace it with what you already had. You want to check. The one thing I found difficult to do was I could not, check for the mobile conveniently. Like if I hit my F12, perhaps I need to move this under. Yeah, okay, yeah, I think that's good. So if I want to check for mobile, you see, this just, that gets in the way. So I can't really preview the mobile and check my font size with the playground. So I guess maybe there'll be an update that will address that, or perhaps give us just gives us a mobile button here that we could just use to bring this this website, so we could into the mobile mode, so we can just test out our mobile like that. For right now, we can't preview the mobile and test it. But then every other thing looks good. The gaps, you could change the gaps to see how it looks. You could change the border radius here to see how it looks. The miscellaneous, these are the ones that I added, the width and the H1. And then you have the grid settings. You have the classes that you would have imported from your external style sheet. And then there are a lot of other things. You have the color lab. This is for you to just play with colors and see, how they are. Play with the brightness, play with the saturation, and then if you're okay, you copy the result to what you want. Color converter, this converts the color to different format, color format, and then you have the scale generator here, It's just so many things. You could just play with a lot of these things. You have this popular color palette from colors or colors.com, and you could just check them and copy them. And you have the contrast checker also here, where if you click on it, if there's anything, you have a poor contrast ratio, it's going to highlight it on your page. So that's basically it. And you could just toggle dark mode also to see how it looks. So that's basically all I'm going to cover in this video for Advanced Theme. As you can see, it is a very interesting add-on. It's a very powerful add-on. This is the kind of add-on I see myself using, because it's a no-brainer. It's a kind of add-on that can really get you hooked, because it has a lot of very useful features. I mean, I could do with all this use. I mean, I'm not going to use all of them. I might just disable some and use some of the ones that are very, very important, like some of these, they're really cool, they're really, really cool. So that's all we're going to cover in this video for Advanced Theme add-on for Bricks Builder. And I believe there are a couple of things we may have left out. Hopefully in future videos, we might cover them in depth. And let me know in the comment section what you think about this add-on, if you like it. And one more thing, how to get it. Of course, you could get it by going to Advanced Theme website, advancedtheme.com, and then you see it starts from $39. You have the a lifetime yearly license. Just go check it out. The yearly license starts here. Okay, you have 5 ultimate license. Now you have your lifetime license. Okay, so so they have this LTD is not going to be forever. LTD is going to close on the 16th of April, which is basically maybe today. Let's see if they're going to extend it, but that's basically when it's going to close. So if you're seeing this video on the 16th or before this closes and you want to get this, please just hurry and get it before it closes. After that, what you're going to be having is just license for 5 sites. Okay, and they are actually limited. They are limited. All right. Okay, so all right, that's it for now. Have a great day. Bye.